We have Kasar Abdulla here for the Sacred Empowerment Summit. She came to me through a dear friend, Sarah and Diana. And Miss Abdullah, a Nashvilleian for over 20 years, is a native of Kyrgyzstan of Iraq. A longtime social justice educator, advocate, and organizer since experiencing life in a refugee camp with her family. Miss Abdullah has received numerous honors for her community activism in Nashville. President Obama named her Champion of Change in September 2013 for her work on immigrant integration in Tennessee. Miss Abdullah has been featured in Nashville Public Television, Next Door Neighbor, The Nashville Scenes, The People issue of 2010, Splash Life Magazine 30 Under 30, Civic Leaders, and in 2016 featured in the Style Blueprint magazine, Faces of Nashville. He's a graduate from Lipscomb University with a master's in conflict management and Tennessee State University with a Bachelor of Science in Sociology. He completed the University of Southern California's Fellowship on American Muslim Civic Leadership Institution in 2010 and is a Leadership Nashville and Leadership Tennessee alumni. In pursuit of graduate school, Ms. Abdullah resigned from her position as the Director of Advocacy and Education at Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, where she worked in the areas of policy research, advocacy, strategic communication, and education in the area of immigrant integration and leadership development. Currently, she serves on many boards as a community advisor of Nashville Public Television and is currently serving as the board of director of Young Women's Christian Association, American Muslim Advocacy Council, and the Pencil Foundation. She is also a founding team member of Valor Collegiate Academics. She enjoys educating families about their school choices, options, and getting to know Valor families. In her spare time, she loves hiking, reading, cooking, traveling, and spending time with her friends and family. So thank you so much for your time. I know that you have a very full life, and it's an honor to have this time with you to share your wisdom in being a leader in the community in Nashville, and also, you know, nationally and globally. I would think that your work is affecting people. So it's really important, I think, to share what you know. And the topics that I've chosen are grace and sacred empowerment. And so I just wanted to ask you, what does grace mean to you, and how is it empowering your life and the work that you do?
Thank you. It is an honor for me to share my thoughts with you as well. So, Crystal, I appreciate you reaching out. To me, I mean, like, grace is definitely one of those sort of terminologies that nothing can really describe it. It's this powerful feeling. And grace is, so for example, I feel at grace or graceful when I feel like my soul is being satisfied. And my soul tend to be satisfied when I'm fulfilling my noble purpose on earth. And so to me, I use grace to move my soul, to move my limbs in doing the good will, work around me. And then I feel like it's the power of grace that sort of help me move others as well, to act regardless of the social imperfections that they may be seeing or their particular unique struggle. Because as human beings, we all have struggles, right? Like, to be a human being, your struggle, that's what makes you really unique. You're not an angel, you're a human being, you're going to face struggles. And then there are layers to that, right? So my struggles may be also a bit more unique because I am a woman. I have to also be a Muslim woman. And so there's additional sort of layers to that. And I feel like it takes extreme grace to be able to overcome those sort of barriers and those layers of struggles that you face.
Absolutely. Can you share more about being a Muslim woman in this country at this time, and how grace is supporting you? Or
Sure. So we live in a very unique time. For the United States, I think we are faced with a unique opportunity to have some really good, honest conversations that we really haven't had the conversations about.
Mm-hmm.
And, anywhere from being able to really know our past, but to be grounded in our present and to be sharp focused on our future. And so to be a young Muslim woman in the United States right now, there are some legit concerns and there are some really legit barriers or obstacles. But I have, again, through personal experiences and my faith has shaped me on how to look at those struggles and turn them into opportunities to really connect on a human level. To be able to see the humanity in all of us gives me that strength. And so I feel privileged in a way that I am unprivileged in some areas because I can connect and have multiple perspectives. To give you a very narrow experience, I was about 6 years old when, I fled my birthplace, Kurdistan of Iraq. And so as a 6-year-old young girl, I was getting ready to go to school, I was going to be kindergartner and very excited. But those unfortunate events, changed my whole course. As I fled the only place that I knew, I flee my home. And then, by middle school, I was adopted by this nation, United States. And if only through sort of going through that experience, through that, dreadful experience of wars and, both immigration, I have a different set of lens when I look at United States immigration system. I also bring a different set of lens when I look at how do we resolve world conflicts. I believe that, in the 21st century that we can sit down in a humane and civil manner and have disputes and come up with resolutions. And that weapons aren't the best use of tackling those issues. And so those experiences have shaped that. I also rely quite a lot on my faith in terms of, there's a very beautiful prophetic saying by Prophet Muhammad that says, "Oh, you who believe, stand out firmly for justice, against those who are oppressed." It says stand up firmly for justice, even if it means against yourself. And so you check in those internal biases and you are to be in sync with it, know it, label it, tackle it, eliminate it from within. Then it says, look at your surrounding and address those injustices as well. And also it gives this sort of, as a woman of faith, this sort of notion that there's a higher being who's going to hold you accountable for your actions and your well-beings, and that you must be good stewards on earth, for example. And so I find it to be my duty to make sure that I address those who are being oppressed and help them to seek freedom from oppression, but also those who are initiating oppression on others, for him or her to seek oppression or seek freedom from his own oppression, right? And so what we're seeing in the United States right now with the current administration, I feel like it's my duty and obligation to do what I can to get our United States to see sort of his oppressive policies. And help him get out of his own oppression.
Yeah. What do you recommend people doing to get more enlightened on this topic? Or, what can we do?
I think we have to be, we no longer can be comfortable with our situation. We have to be vigilant and we have to push to make necessary changes. We have to and we must address institutionalized racism that we haven't addressed for so long. And I always say what was very, awesome about sort of this latest presidential election was, the Trump sort of campaign made the invisible visible, right? And so a lot came to the surface that for so long, for hundreds of years, we said doesn't exist. Like racism doesn't exist. We've eliminated that. Or women affairs, right, are great, better than anything. We wanted to brag about us and how far we've came. But then through this administration, we recognize actually there's a lot that still needs to be done, that we cannot be comfortable with our social imperfections. We have to, through grace, tackle those social imperfections. And we have to have it with the mindset of without wanting anything in return, right? So you want to pay it forward without saying that, I, Kasar Abdulla, as a Muslim woman, I'm going to help the Black Lives Matter movement because I want to make sure that they help me out when it comes to Muslim lives. That's not sort of the mentality we need to have. I think it should be on a human level. I'm going to do what I can to tackle and eliminate the struggles that you're facing without wanting or needing anything in return from you. Whether you return it or not, that is up to you. And so I think we have to have that mentality as well, with especially and particularly with these different movements that are taking place across the United States, right? The women's movement. Have we really analyzed how the institution was created internally? As again, a woman of faith, there were times and situations where some of the strongest feminists excluded me because of the way I choose to dress or what I choose to believe. And so we have to be able to have a conversation on that. We have to make sure that we really understand certain sort of terminologies that we throw out there constantly. What do we really mean by diversity? What do we really mean by being culturally humble? What does liberation mean? Do we all understand that liberation may mean different things for different women, right? A prime example of that, the first day I felt quite liberated was the day I chose to put on my scarf, and I was a senior in high school. That was the day I felt very liberated from the materialistic world and expectation the society has on women. But others may see me as not liberated because I cover.
I wanted to ask you about that let's demystify this for others. I know Sarah shared several years ago with me that there was a movement to cover the head, and that was liberation, that it was bringing it back in the Muslim culture in Morocco for her, that it was empowering for the women to bring and cover their heads again. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask you so that we could demystify it for people who are watching who want to know, well, why do you cover your head? And because I see it's so beautiful, and it looks very graceful from my perspective. Mother Mary, there's pictures of her covering her head. It's nothing, it's not a new, it's in several different cultural backgrounds. So
I'm really glad you brought it up. I mean, if you think about just comparing a couple of world events that just took place. So we still live in a time where the society dictates how a woman should dress. So in France, we're dictating and forcefully removing clothing from an elderly woman who happens to be wearing the burqa and just enjoying the beach. We are ripping her clothes off and saying that you're wearing too much. And by wearing too much clothing, you're having an impact on the society. Whereas here in the United States, a couple weeks ago, we removed 2 young women from an airline flight because they were wearing leggings. They were not wearing enough or appropriate clothing, and it's having an impact on the society. And so that's an issue. If we don't see the parallel on the fact that no matter how a woman decides to dress, it seems like the society is not satisfied. And I truly feel like the true honest liberation is when a woman chooses how she wants to live her life, how she wants to dress, whether she wants to dress more or she wants to dress less. That should be the ultimate decision for the woman to make. And it shouldn't be made by other societies. I honestly, it's interesting because my doctor, my health provider, she's a Catholic nun, and she actually dresses more modest than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first time meeting her, and I looked at her and she looked at me, and I think she was as shocked as I was about us covering. And she asked me that question. She said, "You're a young woman. Why do you cover?" And, you know, I let her know that I began to cover when I was a senior in high school. And I merely covered because I feel like it's my outer symbol of God consciousness in my internal struggle for grace.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So do you have any advice for someone who wanted to cultivate more ease and more grace into their life? I think because of your journey and your experiences, it's sort of innate in you. So someone who hasn't experienced that struggle that would bring more grace in, do you know what I'm asking? Like, yeah, how to...
I would say to be very humble and be very comfortable in who you are and wherever you came from, but to also be very mindful of sort of your place in the world, your words and your actions, and how they impact the society around you. So I think once you know who you are and you're very well grounded, it's interesting because we have this saying in Kurdish culture that sometimes when you translate between the two languages, it sort of leaves its meaning. But there's a saying that I grew up with as a little girl that my mother used to always say, "Share, share, chijina, chimera." A line is a line, whether it be male or female, it is still a line. And so when we are looking at sort of our life and our situations, we need to be that line. We need to be that leader to address, areas for advancement wherever it may be.
Oh, thank you. If someone wanted to find out more about you or contact you, what would be the best way?
Facebook, email, Twitter, you can do all of that.
And is the Facebook just your name?
It's Kasar Abdulla Big Dawdi. It has my tribal name attached to my name.
Okay. And I'll just have that written out for people. Okay.
All right. Well, good luck, Crystal. Wish you the best.